Thank you for staying with us. The crisis at the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, UNIZIK in Awka, has escalated as the Governing Council, led by Ambassador Greg Mbadiwe, issued an ultimatum to staff members involved in court action regarding the appointment of a new Vice-Chancellor and registrar. They must withdraw their legal cases within 7 days or face disciplinary action. This situation arose after some staff members challenged the selection process, arguing that the council did not comply with due process. The federal government had previously nullified the appointments due to the exclusion of internal council members and the representatives of the Minister of Education during the council's proceedings. In response, the registrar, Mrs. Rosemary Nwokike, has issued a circular warning staff to comply with the demands or face consequences. Well, joining us in the studio for this conversation is lawyer and public affairs analyst Fred Nzako. Fred, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. We also have in our Abuja studio the chairperson of ASU at Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Professor Kingsley Obaoji. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, and good morning, Nigerians.
Right. Let me begin with you, Professor Obaoji. Talk to us what really the bone of contention in this matter is. There are so many sides to this story. There's a side of the Governing Council, there's the side of ASU, and then there's the side of some staffers of the school. But from your perspective, painting us a vivid picture of how things got to a head where it is right now, what really is the issue?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to first of all let the world know that I don't have anything personal in this struggle. This is strictly a matter which the union professes. And we know that ASU wants transparency, honesty, cleanliness in everything done, in all issues within the university. Of course, ASU does this for several reasons, among which is to maintain peace and tranquility in the citadel of learning. Of course, teaching, research, and community service can only occur in a climate of peace and tranquility. Having said this, the issue at hand that led us to go to court is the fact that there is a process, a due process, that needs to be followed for the selection and appointment of a Vice-Chancellor. And when the government appointed the external members of council, and they came down to the university, we wrote them and congratulated them and asked for a level playing ground, because there is this norm where people install people. And most times you see that council are always follow in line with succession of who was there and who was not there, when there are so many people who are qualified. So that bias is why ASU met and pleaded with council to really give a level playing ground, so that all the contestants will have equal opportunity of contesting. Unfortunately, they started giving directives and orders. The worst is that they usurped the powers of Senate, because when they commanded the acting Vice-Chancellor to put up an advert for the vacant position of the registrar, we wrote the council and said the acting Vice-Chancellor cannot act alone. There is need for the full complement of council to really meet. And of course, the meetings of council were held in Abuja, not in Awka. We have the hallowed chamber of the governing council, but they were holding meeting outside the university when there is a place that should be. And the very first meeting that was attended with the internal members of council, of course, you see a letter written by the internal members of council dissociating themselves from what really happened, particularly the Senate members. So when they gave us report at the Senate meeting of what has been transpiring, the Senate now wrote council for two things. One, to with respect to the advert that was published, because the advert excluded some people. We have what to have conditions of service for which staff are promoted in the university. But the advert naturally excluded a group of people from the contest. We saw that as not being a level playing ground anymore, which they accepted to. Then there are some other conditions, part of which is qualification. There's what we call cognate experience. You need to have had experience in university leadership. University is not a political sphere. It is where youths are nurtured in character and learning. And character for us is most important. We would sometimes ask, of what use is someone who is educated, yet the person is a liar? Or someone who is educated, but he's a bigot? And of course, somebody who is educated, but is a thief. Such things are not worthy. And it's important to understand the importance of training of young people. So when the governing council started going overboard by giving directive to the acting vice chancellor, I can't remember within the 4 or 5 months that she acted if we ever had a Senate meeting. The only Senate meeting we had, and we talked about election of internal members, and later talked about selection or election for those who will be in the selection committee for the appointment of the vice chancellor and search team. The Senate now wrote a letter to council and said, since there is tension, can we have a joint meeting of Senate and council so that we can solve this gray area? And for the advert that we have issues with because it was handled only by the external members, we said, can we in this raise a corrigendum to really look at those gray areas and see how to sort it out? Because at the end of the day, the next 5 years, council and Senate will continue to exist together. What is of note again is the fact that Senate and council operate at the same level. Council is not superior to Senate. So for the pro-chancellor to come and nominate people without Senate input, nominate people to be part of the selection team and part of the search team is height of recklessness. And after he did that, of course, you know the kind of people that will be used for such hatchet job. They are definitely people who don't have good record with the university, because it is not in the powers of council to do these appointments. It is in the powers of Senate to elect their members and send their names to council. But that was not done. So we got worried and we wrote council again and we requested that the advert be withdrawn because that advert is not good. The truth is that these things depict the fact that we asked our children to go to school, work hard, believing that there is going to be light, bright future, only for the same teachers to be doing things unbecoming of educated people. Can you now teach character to students if it's deficient in you? That is why ASU has been championing this, pleading that the federal government, the minister, of course, we all know all these things are in the public domain.
All right. Let's bring the conversation
to
the studio. Yes, yes. We have Fred Nzako, a lawyer and public affairs analyst, to weigh in on this matter. And he has come with Fred.
In a very unusual manner.
I don't understand.
Yes, absolutely very unusual, because the issues are very serious.
Right, right.
Very serious.
Because just we're seeing that the new registrar is saying that matters in court should be withdrawn or people will face disciplinary action accordingly. And there are those who also say that this matter is sub judice and so should wait till the whole matter is resolved before they start talking about any other thing.
You can see contradiction there. If a matter is a sub judice and then nobody should talk about it, and on the other side they are saying go and withdraw the matters in court. The question is, what even led the matters to go to court? We must know that Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is making efforts, both privately, officially, nationally, and internationally, to make sure that education in Nigeria is top-notch. And that is why the government even brought out the issue of student loan, first in Nigerian history and almost first in Africa, meaning that Mr. President attaches so much importance to education.
Right.
Now, the same president that attaches importance to education, his interest in education is being undermined by two people in Nnamdi Azikiwe University. And there are a lot of problems arising from the fact that it started from the timelines. On 28th of May, 2024, the NUC gave directives to all universities, vice-chancellors that were about leaving office to ensure that they hand over to the next DVC, Deputy Vice-Chancellors, so that there will be no vacuum pending when the substantive Vice-Chancellor is elected. In the case of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, the outgone professor, Vice-Chancellor Professor Shimone, handed over to the DVC, one Professor Joseph Ikechebelo. And then that one was acting. Then that happened on 3rd of June, 2024. On the 4th of July, the federal government inaugurated the councils of all the tertiary institutions in Nigeria. Incidentally, the pro-chancellor and the chairman of council of Nnamdi Azikiwe University happened to be Ambassador Greg Mbadiwe. Yeah. Of course, you know the famous Chancellor Mbadiwe, whose name was Mbadiwe Street in Victoria Island. Yeah. That is the son. Great family, great man, but he is undermining the interests of Mr. President. I say this advisedly.
How so?
Now, I will tell you so. Right. But immediately he was inaugurated on the 4th. On the 22nd, the first assignment he did was to change the acting vice-chancellor, which again undermined the interests of NUC and directive of NUC. He changed him and replaced him with one Professor Carol Arinze Umeobi. Now, that was the beginning of the charade that we are seeing in Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Now, the same chairman of council now was expected to have convoked the full council. Recall that the ASU chairman said that the internal members of council were sidelined. Normally, university council is, you have both external and internal. He is not a professor, he is not a lecturer, he is an external person. And then he was brought to represent the interests of the Federal Minister of Education and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as the pro-chancellor and chairman of council, because the president is the visitor to the university. Now, that council is made up of people from the Senate of the university, made up of the one they call external members, the one they call internal members, DVCs, and the one representing the convocation, and then there are all those other internal mechanisms and representations. One person will even represent Minister of Education. All those were not done. The very moment he was inaugurated on 4th of July, and the four people only that represented the external interest, they now went to work, sidelining all these other ones. As you said, convoke fully this council so that it will not be a one-man show.
But there are those who say that nobody was sidelined, that there are picture evidences and all.
We will tell you where the sidelining was, all right? Then what now happened is that immediately the NUC now said, because ASU now complained to and wrote the NUC, ASU also wrote the Ministry of Education. And what did they do? They said, go and sort out your internal issues and stop further appointment. Because in the midst of that crisis, a registrar was appointed. That Mrs. Nwokike you talked about. Yeah. Then they now were trying to manage that one. Then they now advertised for the appointment of substantive vice-chancellor. Because recall that the other one was in active capacity. Yeah. Then when the substantive chancellor was to be appointed, they now placed an advert. The advertorial now caused another big problem because they sidelined the people in the medical profession.
Okay.
That's where the problem started.
That's where the MDCN comes in.
That is where the MDCN comes in. Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria. These are teachers of doctors in the institution. While they are practicing medicine in the clinic, they are also teaching the students who will teach and who will also practice medicine. Why were they sidelined? Technical sidelining. They said you have to have a PhD if you if you must be a vice chancellor. In 2019, I have the document here. The same thing did not happen, because what they do is that the advertorial will say PhD or its equivalent. That's what happened in 2019. But in 2024, the one they advertised on 12 September 2024 that is causing this brouhaha, they did not put its equivalent, in which case they have technically sidelined the fellows, because in medical profession, their training does not follow the regular training of others.
Absolutely.
Yes, you could, MBBS, you go for your residency, you keep taking exams. Before you even become a fellow, you would have spent close to almost 8 years after 6 years in the university. How many years does it take to earn a PhD? 4 years, another 1 year, another 3 or 4 years. You become a PhD holder. So when you say PhD, it has its equivalent in medicine. The equivalent is a fellow. And it has always been the practice. I remember there was a time one professor, Festus Wanko, was the vice chancellor of the university, the same university. He's a professor of medicine. What is important is that having attained that fellowship, and you grow along the rank as a professor, to become a professor in the teaching line. So they have dual lines. One, they are moving along the line of medicine. They are moving along the line of teaching. You become a consultant, but at least you become a professor. They said to become the vice chancellor, you would have been a professor for at least 9 years. Normally, the laws of UNIZIK says at least 10 years. No problem. They now went and started the kangaroo arrangement. Kangaroo in the sense that with this sidelining of those in medical profession, they were tailoring the interview to suit a particular individual. That is where the whole crisis started. The whole thing is in public domain. It's not from the mouth of Fred Nzago. Just go and you see the whole crisis. And that's why I like and thank TVC for blazing the trail in discussing this thing and bringing it to the public domain, because Nigerians do not know that that beautiful institution named after the great Zik of Africa that is 33 years and have been training experts is about to be ditched into the abyss of infamy by individuals who don't mean well for the environment and who also don't mean well for the program and policies of the federal government. Now, in the midst of all this crisis, the MDK went to court. They said, you cannot discriminate against us. And of course, you know that Nigerian Constitution frowns against discrimination. So they are being discriminated against, and they went to court. They didn't just go to court. They wrote Ministry of Education. Right. They wrote the council and told them, this is wrong. Then, not only that the internal members of council were being sidelined, they were technically sidelining those in the medical profession. And I believe, and I believe strongly, that it was a very wrong step that was carried out by the pro-chancellor. It is important to say, when they say it's council, no, it is not council. Because even the council itself is divided into two. Right. The internal members of council were saying, let's do it right, the way we have been doing it, so there will be no problem. The external people, led by the chairman of council, Ambassador Greg Mbadiwe, is the one that is tailoring this to suit a particular individual. And
who is that individual?
He exposed himself on 29th of October this year, when he single-handedly anointed one Dr. Bernard Odo, who is eminently unqualified. Underline the word in a capital letter. Unqualified.
How so? How is he not qualified?
To be the vice chancellor of University of
How is he unqualified?
He's not qualified because, one, he does not meet the criteria. He meets the wrong criteria. He's not a... He is a reader. And of course, you and I know that a reader is at best an associate professor. And they said, for you to be VC, you must be a substantive professor. And he is not. When he is trying to make himself, clothe himself with the gown that does not fit him, he went and told them that Federal University Guzo appointed him a professor. When he claimed it was between 2015 and 2018. Meanwhile, I have a letter here from Federal University Guzo
to deny that.
From Federal University Guzo denying him. They said they never knew him as a professor. They never made him a professor. He never even headed a department, because he claimed he was the head of the Department of Geophysics in the university. The university registrar, look at it here, wrote and said, we don't know this man. It was only in July of this year that they sent him a letter to make him a visiting associate professor, a visiting reader. Only in July this year. Meanwhile, the man claimed the university made him a professor. Meanwhile, if you are a visiting professor in any university, it does not count. It doesn't make you a full professor.
Right.
Because as a visiting professor, you are not assessed. You can only be assessed. You can only be assessed by the university where you work. Before you are made a substantive professor, you present your inaugural address, and then you are made a substantive professor. Right. So, in all intents and purposes, he is not qualified to be the vice chancellor. And the ASU and the rest of them are now saying that this is an imposition of an impostor that has come to do a hatchet job that will kill this university, and they will not tolerate it. And those of us who are amicus universitas, friends of the university, we also will not tolerate it.
All right, so let's go to our guest in Abuja studio. In all of this, I'm still wondering why this crisis is still lingering when even the federal government has intervened and has called for peace in these situations.
You mean the federal government has called for peace?
From the story out there, the government has said every party, the university should work amicably so that this crisis does not affect academic activities.
Definitely, the university is a ghost of itself now. People are so scared. People don't go to class. Things are happening, and the atmosphere is very toxic. You see comments on social media for and against. And I don't think it's just like I said at the beginning, what is expected of an academic environment. So it's dangerous to allow this to continue. We thought that by now the federal government would have done something, but the delay is
what are you expecting the federal government to do quickly? Because this we need to wrap up this conversation.
Of course, if there are contentions and the government have the information, they should act with dispatch, because the more the delay, the more we create a toxic environment for ourselves and for the students who will come around. This is not supposed to have lingered until now. If the Federal Minister of Education has nullified what has happened...
What exactly? The question is, what exactly do you want the federal government to do?
They should withdraw the pro-chancellor. They should remove him from our university, because his style is not acceptable. It's dangerous for the system, for a system named after the great Zik of Africa. It's not worth it. So he should be removed. And not just him. The purported vice chancellor should stay aside. Let somebody act while this is sorted out. You cannot be sitting and be a jury in your own case. It is not fair on all of us. Like today, they set a panel for me, and they are expecting me to be there by 11. The panel is to ask me the authority I have. I am the chairperson of ASU, and I'm representing an association that met and gave approval for the things we are doing. They said, go on protest. We went on protest. They said, write to this and write to that. They said, go to court. They said, that's why I'm trying to make sure I don't do anything that is prejudicial to the suit that is in court. But if my Congress has given us approval to do all this, and we are doing it, and somebody is setting a panel against an individual as against the association, I think that's not fair. And the government's silence is not healthy for all of us.
All right.
So you can see that
it's not at all.
By the chairman of council.
I'm pained. I'm deeply pained.
Muzzle up all oppositions, and to even muzzle up all sane voices. Well, I don't want to agree with Professor Boji that government is keeping quiet, because Federal Minister of Education, look at the letter nullifying the appointment of the purported imposition of Dr. Bernard Odo as the Vice Chancellor. Look at it here. Letter from Minister of Education. What is left is for federal government to see it through, and to make sure that what they have directed, they are not undermined by the Pro-Chancellor acting in concert with his cohorts.
We'll have to leave this conversation here now, because although this is one-sided, and we hope that the now Vice Chancellor, perhaps he has a right of reply and response to this conversation we have had. So it is, TVC is opening its doors to him to come and respond to all of the allegations that have been laid, because all of these are still allegations according to whatever
substantive allegations. You can say.
So we'll leave it there so that he can respond to speak from his side of things.
Absolutely.
So that we know how the issues are. Let's not have a one-sided story.
Yeah,
because there are three sides.
But with what is in the public domain,
right,
I think that he will cut into his corners. I don't know what you
I
don't know what you come and say in Nigeria.
We have to wait.
And I would like to even meet him one-on-one
Let's wait
so that
and
we'll
see.
discuss the issues.
As
amicus universitas, I would like to meet with him one-on-one.
Of course, we know there are interests.
There are interests everywhere.
So let's just wait and see what he's going to say with regards to this matter. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. Fred Nzako, lawyer, public affairs analyst, as well as Professor Kingsley Uboji, Chairman ASU, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. Thank you so much for your time as well. Thank you.
Thanks.